Hi everyone, this is block number 4, April. It's for our block of the month challenge in Stitch It with Cricut Facebook group. If you'd like to participate, you can find a link for the group in the description under this video. Before we get started, I wanted to mention that in the Design Space project, you're going to see that we're using 3 different colors of fabric for this block. I wanted to mention that you want to be loading your fabric on the mat in the right order. If you start mixing up the order and load dark when you should be loading light, the block is not going to turn out looking the way it's meant to. So that's just something you want to be aware of. Select your colors, load them in the right sequence. So the first thing you're going to do is prepare your squares so that we can assemble this block. I've done my 4 half square triangle corners first, using the large white and the large dark square. I've sewn a 1/4 inch on each side of this draw line. I'm sure you've seen this in several of the quilt blocks already. If you haven't, look in the group files in Stitch It with Cricut group files, and you'll see an explanation with photos of how this is done. So now that we've sewn a 1/4 inch on each side, we're just going to cut right along this drawn line. And that will give us 2 half square triangles. We're going to press them open, as always, towards the darker side. And you want to be sure that when you place them for your block, you place them with the dark pointing in towards the center, where it matches your center square. I've seen a few squares put together where the half square triangles were turned around. That's perfectly fine if that's how you want it, but if you're looking to maintain the look, if you're wanting to maintain the look of the block, you want to point your darker colors towards the center, not out. And they should all point the same direction. The next thing you're going to do is assemble these 4 little squares to make your larger square for the top, sides, and bottom. So what you're going to do is sew a dark and a light square together. Do that for all of them. You have 8 darker and 8 light. You're going to prepare them that way and then turn them opposite of each other. Let's get a better place to show you this. Turn them opposite of each other. You're going to put them together, and you want to be sure to nest your seams. So when you've pressed them towards the dark side and you go to nest, they'll nest perfectly. You'll have one going to the right and one going to the left. You'll be able to line up your seams and get a perfect point in the center when you sew them. So now you just need to sew straight along this top line, and we'll press it open to make our square. And there we go. You can see my points line up perfectly because I've nested those seams and I sewed straight across to attach them together. So the way we're going to lay these out is, you see 2 light facing this way and 2 dark facing that way. And that's how we make this pattern. You have all the darks lining up and all the lights lining up. And that's how we make this pattern. So now what we're going to do is sew our 3 rows together, and then we'll go on to attaching them into a square. And so we begin assembling our rows. We're going to do our first row, pressing our seams towards the outside, second row pressing towards the inside, and third row pressing towards the outside. We're doing this so that when we assemble the 3 rows, we'll be able to nest our seams. So let's go ahead and get that done. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is sew our 3 rows together to assemble our block. I'm going to use some pins. I don't always use pins, but for the sake of this video, I want to make sure that I'm showing you properly that you need to nest your seams. This is why we press towards the outside and towards the inside. You want to line those seams up. You have one going to the right and one to the left. And I'm going to put a pin in that just to make sure it doesn't move when I start sewing. We're going to do the same on this seam. Put a pin in it. And we're ready to sew right along. Once we get that one done, we're going to do the exact same thing on this bottom, lifting it up. Be sure to nest your seams so that they turn out perfectly nice. And we'll be back to see how the finished block looks. Okay, so we've sewn our top rows together. I need to press that again. I've pressed everything towards the top. And now I'm going to do the same to attach the 3rd row to the center. Once again, super important to nest our seams. You want to make sure you get those nice and straight so your block looks really pretty when it's done. Okay. And my last seam, I'm going to sew straight across. I'm going to trim off these little dog ears to reduce the bulk. We'll sew straight across and we'll be done with this block. And there we go, our block is complete. I love it. I think it's really pretty. I don't usually trim up all my edges until I have all my blocks prepared so I can square them all at the exact same size. So the things you want to be careful about is making sure that your squares are all pointing in the right direction. You want this line of dark fabric, this line of light fabric, all your corners pointing in that match the center square. So I hope you're going to enjoy this block. Please be sure to post pictures of yours in the Stitch It with Cricut Facebook group. If you'd like to participate in our Block of the Month challenge, you'll find the link to our group in the description under this video. And thank you for watching.